Welcome everyone to a new live stream for 2022, and want to say that today's theme is about staying positive in difficult times. So I'm trying to connect up my Instagram live stream at the same time, so we'll be doing that as well. But wanted to welcome people. I'll give people a few minutes to jump onto the stream. I hope this is a good time for you. I think if you're in the US, it might be nighttime. But if you're watching this after the fact, then we're going to be talking about how to stay positive with some things in Chinese medicine that can help you be healthy in your mind and your body. So we'll just do another one of those little countdowns to help me get your questions ready, okay? Get your questions ready, because I'm just going to press this button over here. Awesome. I think we're live everywhere now. We're going to be live on Instagram. Just it says it's reconnecting, but so if you have a question, please pop it in the comments. I'd love to hear your questions and answer some of those things. But I thought I would do a stream on if you're watching wherever you're watching, Instagram, Facebook. Where else are we? Facebook, YouTube, and so I'm going to be answering questions. I've got a question from someone about the general diet principles, and I will be making a proper video on that as well. But I thought I'll mention that in this stream as well. I must be using up all of my bandwidth because one of my things is cracking it on my Instagram. Anyway, so I hope that you're doing well. And look, I know that sometimes it can be hard to not do well. It can be difficult because, things change, life gets in the way of living the healthy things that you want to be living. And we're going to talk about some of the natural ways that you can maintain health through Chinese medicine things and just general principles. One of the things I love about Chinese medicine is that it doesn't change, right? You don't wake up and go, oh, what do we do about this? It's all actually there. The principles are there. And so there's a saying in Chinese medicine that says a sage looks backwards, right? A sage as in a person who's committed to the study and the learning of it, but not just to the learning of it, but to the development of their own self. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm just going to maybe turn that mic up a tiny little bit. I think that's good. If there's any trouble hearing me, just let me know and I can turn it up more if we need that. So a sage looks backwards. What does that mean, right? Towards the ancestors. It means we don't have to kind of run around thinking, I got to come up with a new thing. And so there's the way to respond to those things is already there. That's one thing. Okay, you can go, pure, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right, I can do that. So yes, if you have a question, you can put it in the comments. Hello to people on Instagram. I hope that this is working properly now because I was jumping in and out a little bit of the stream. So, we're going to be talking about how to stay positive, but also answering questions about people's questions about Chinese medicine. So one of the questions I was asked that I want to talk about, which kind of helps with answering this question that I want to answer, someone asked me on the stream, could you do a video about the general diet principles? Like, what are the general things to stay healthy? Awesome. We got someone here, Mr. Grow. That's a good name for a YouTuber. I'll come to your question in a minute. Thank you for asking that. So the general ways to stay healthy include things that you should just do no matter what, right? So I'm going to go through the basics of those, and they're not very hard. And what you can do when you're going through difficult times and you feel like your body's going out of balance or your mind's going out of balance, then you come back to these things. You come back to that stuff and you go, okay, I'm going to come back to what I know is going to put me back on the right path, right? And it doesn't have to be really complicated or difficult or fancy, right? You don't have to go and spend a lot of money to do this stuff. And sometimes it's actually not doing things that is the most healthy way. So one of the things in Chinese medicine that your body likes is regularity. Now, this is where you can kind of come up with your own regularity based on what's best for you. If you're not sure what's best for you, you haven't experimented with that, or you're not sure, then go for the 3 meals a day kind of regularity. Go for the 8 hours of sleep kind of regularity. Go for, like, try to do things at the same time and try to stay in balance with the seasons. So in summertime, you need less sleep. In wintertime, you generally need a bit more sleep. So if you're in the US now, you probably, you should probably be snuggling up to bed, not getting up at 3 a.m. to watch a stream maybe. But if you have control, well, okay, so let's go back to what, difficult times. Sometimes it can feel like things are out of our control. So what you want to do is, number one, think about, well, what can I control? What are the things I can control? What are the things I can do that can get me back on this path towards health? So it's not like it's a one thing. I might just stop this and start this again because it seems like it's just not working. I think I'm using up all my bandwidth trying to do 2 things at once or something. I don't know. Normally I don't have a problem with that. I just go for it. The internet has to catch up with me. I'm so powerful and so doing so much. Anyway, so the basic health principles are what you want to stick to, or know those things, so that then you can come back to those things. And there's no point in feeling guilty that you can't do everything if you're feeling like that's a trouble for you and you feel like, oh, but I can't do it all. I know what I should be doing, and I'm not doing it all. I'm talking to myself as well. So it's a matter of knowing, well, these are the optimal things, and how can I move towards those things? And in difficult times, when things are going changing all the time, and that might be causing you some confusion. I'm going to talk about that as well. I'm going to talk about what happens to your body. I might just make a little note of that because it's a good one. Sometimes I think of these things. Change. How change affects our body. We can talk about that because that's a big thing that can put us into a state of disarray in health. So you go back to these things that you know that work, right? So one of those things is regularity. So your stomach and your spleen are the earth element. Now, in one of the sequences, they're right in the center. And so it's imperative, it's really crucial that you're doing things that promote this regularity of that earth, that center, right? So it's even considered the center, like it's considered, even though, so when you have an earth element problem, like most of the time, the pain or the discomfort or whatever will be in the center. So not sort of like here, the center, but just below where your ribs join up. So that's called your epigastrium or epigastric area. Bloated or discomfort there is like, considered a dysfunction of that center, that earth. So how do we bring that back into balance? Well, it loves regularity. Your stomach likes to be full and empty, not grazing all day long. So that's one of the biggest principles of eating that can kind of help you. Now, I don't want to be too general, but most of the time when you're going through difficult times, you do have control over your eating. You have some control. Now, I know that sometimes people they're using food, and that might be part of the problem, but it also, in that temporary moment, can be the solution. They're like, oh, I just need this comfort. I just need this. So if that's you and you're struggling with that sort of stuff, then seeing a practitioner can help you, because sometimes your body's physically out of balance and then it can't get back into, it can't regain its mental health kind of balance. And then doing the things that are destructive kind of then are making that mental health imbalance worse, and then that makes the physical, and they can have this interaction between each other. And so that's what I want to talk about, because your spleen organ, the earth element, relates to worry and this anxiety and what we call circular thinking or pensiveness, right? So going around and around and around a problem and not having any solution to it. And I think at the moment in the world, there's a lot of difficult times that we feel like the solution is like out of our control. And that can be hard as well. Like, so, and depending on, again, on what personality type you are or what elemental even personality type you are, could mean how you experience that lack of, like, some people are more okay with a lack of control, and others are like, no, this is freaking me right out, and I don't like this at all. I don't want to live in a world where I don't have control. So you want to think about, what are the things that I can take control of myself? How can I take control of these things? Now, there's a great book that I've started reading called Atomic Habits, right? About little things, little changes that you make. So just, that's a big principle in Chinese medicine, right? Doing little things every day and incremental things. And that sometimes you want to think about, well, what incremental habits have happened, have I developed without even realizing it, not purposefully. I don't think anyone purposefully goes, oh, I'm going to become an alcoholic. They go, how will I go about this journey of getting to being a drug addict or being an alcoholic, or needing these things to alleviate my pain and suffering? It just starts with little things, right? It starts with a 1 time, and then 2 times, and then regularity, and then it just becomes what you normally do. And so, I'm not trying to belittle people's difficulties. I know that sometimes you can go through massive difficulties, and even for myself right now, I'm going through some difficulties. Like, there's a lot of difficulty in the world to be faced. What I want to talk about in this stream is also Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how that relates to changes in the world and changes in your life. And I'm going to use a little diagram to show that to you. Before I do that, let me answer this question. So Mr. Grow, that's a great name, says, hello, what herbs are good for a 10-year-old boy with astigmatism? It's a very specific question. I think most people who follow my channel know, and I'll just say again, I can't give specific advice to individual people for their conditions because I'm not your doctor. And also, it's very hard with Chinese medicine. We don't really have specific herbs that treat that. We would want to see, well, firstly, we could talk about basically we'll be treating the pattern of disharmony, how Chinese herbal formulas work. So it wouldn't be, again, one herb. It's individual formulas that kind of do that. Now, the thing I could probably help you with the most for, like, let's say, over-the-counter advice would be talking about acupressure points for that. So if you're still on the stream and you want me to talk about the acupressure, I can do that. But herbs wise, we don't really have, that's not how Chinese medicine works. And I spent quite a bit of time on the previous stream to this one talking about that. So I don't want to harp on about the same things all the time. And it's not that I'm trying to withhold information. It's just that that's actually not Chinese medicine. Like, Chinese herbs could be used in that way, but that's not actually what Chinese medicine is about. So you kind of need to see a practitioner and have a diagnosis and work out, well, what's this dysfunction here? Now, with astigmatism, sometimes it depends on how it's happened. So if it occurred suddenly, then there could be a relationship between the kidney shock and the kidneys. So the water element relates to a shock and fear. So something that's happened now, not that emotionally it's directly caused, but it's kind of indirectly, it's kind of caused some kind of discombobulation there. That can happen where things happen suddenly. For kids, right, there can be lots of things that happen in their lives that we might not consider as adults to be that dramatic or that fearful or that difficult. I'll give you an example. Once I had a patient where the parents brought the kid to me, and the kid had basically been a witness to a break-in in the house, and they didn't realize that he'd had that until well after that had happened. And not to go into too many details about his situation or anything, but like that had caused other health problems to happen. Well, basically they didn't think that had caused health problems to happen. Health problems had happened to this kid. And then through this process, they thought that when this burglar came into the house, that he was just tucked up in bed asleep, and the burglar had come into his room apparently, and didn't do anything to the kid, but just the kid had seen it and been fearful, and ever since, been really scared. And why wouldn't you be scared? And there's lots of things as kids that, like, you think back at your own childhood and you think, I didn't say anything about that. Like, maybe I should have said something, and maybe you didn't think anything of it, because you have hopefully some kind of level of innocence as a kid too, right? Which is nice to have that. You just don't think that these things. So you sometimes kids don't tell their parents stuff. Now that could be nothing to do with your situation, but that's something to think about, right? Now, acupressure wise, if you want to know those points, we can, if you're still there on the stream, then pop that in the comments, and I'll talk about some acupressure points. So we're going to go back to the stuff I was talking about before. If people would like to know, it doesn't have to be on this theme. If you have questions, you can ask them, and I will answer them. When I do the streams, I like to just do Q&A. But if there aren't any questions at the start, I usually have something to talk about, so that it's not waiting for people to come and boring and all the rest of it. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so going back to what are the basic things in Chinese medicine that you need to do, that your body likes kind of regularity, right? So this regular, like full and empty, not grazing all day long, that kind of thing, right? So your body likes that regularity. So as much as you can in difficult times, trying to go back to regularity, that can help you. Trying to go to the things that are easy for you to prepare food-wise. We'll just talk about foods first. That it doesn't sort of take up too much extra energy for you to do, and you can kind of incorporate that into your lifestyle, right? Without it being like, oh, this is so burdenous. Because sometimes you're going through a difficult time and you're just thinking, oh, I can't manage to do something even more difficult, right? This is so arduous because it's new and you don't know how to do it, which is one of the reasons why, if you practice these healthy principles, or you know about this stuff and you're able to do it, it's not very hard when life is tough to kind of do those things, right? It's not like you're learning all these new skills. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start up this course that I'm doing, because I wanted to teach people, hey, these are things that you should just know how to do, because after that year has gone past and you're finished and you've got all that knowledge, well, then you can like implement them should you need it, right? I hope that people don't need that. I hope you don't get sick, but you will get sick eventually. Something's going to happen, right? Or maybe friends and family and loved ones and stuff get sick, and it's good to know about how to do that for yourself, the things that you can do. So the first thing would be regularity, right? So we're talking about staying positive in difficult times and how Chinese medicine can help you with that. So one thing is to think about that, right? What can I do that I know easily how to do? So it might be just like things like, if you're in the US and you like soups are good. I'm going to make soups. I might just turn this volume up a bit in case it's a little soft. Maybe it's a bit too loud. Turn it down a little bit. There we go. So soups are good, and stews are good, right? So things that are easy to cook, easy to prepare, that you can do, and you could even freeze your meals. So if you're coming into a difficult time and you know it's going to be difficult, then you can prepare that stuff in advance, like prepare the things you can prepare, and then you're kind of less bamboozled by the, oh, I didn't see that coming, because there are going to be things that you just like didn't see coming. Your sleep is important, right? So if that's not good, if you can't fall asleep, or you're waking up at night all the time, then that's something that you want to address. And that's something where a practitioner can help you. We might do a stream just on sleep, or I might do a course on sleep. And there are some things you can do if people want to know about that stuff. You pop that in the comments, and I can talk more about sleep, like things you can do to help have good sleep. Okay, so there's some of the things. Now, I want to talk about change and how that might affect our body in Chinese medicine, right? So we know that our body likes regularity, right? Now, you can't, when we say regularity, I don't mean boringness, like just everything the same all the time so that it's boring. And some elemental types like they are good with change, and they're good with, I don't know, less, like more adventurous and more things thrown at them than others. So if you are a wood type or a water type, you tend to like those changes more than other types. Let's say water types are like the best type to have in a crisis because they tend to be very steady as she goes, and they can come up with these solutions quickly, right? So if your house was burning down, you'd want a water type there to kind of, they could calm the frenzy, and they tend to go into those jobs where, they are the calm to the frenzy, where you see those movies where it's like, oh, the world's ending. Unfortunately, that's not how how this pandemic played out. I was thinking, oh, we might get to see one of those movies played out, but no, we haven't. It's just been very different to that. But when you see those movies where they're like, oh, the virus is taking over the world, and the chopper comes down, this one guy comes out and he's like, okay, we're implementing like plan X, Y, Z, and we're going to do this and that, and it saves the world, right? Or the media is coming to the earth and they do something. Unless you watch that, don't look up, and spoiler alert, it doesn't end how normal movies kind of end. That was a great film. I really like that. Highly recommend that if you're something interested, for something interesting to watch. Anyway, so how does change affect our body? So how change affects you can be in very different ways depending on your personality type, your elemental personality type. And then again, your personality type, depending on what's happened to you in terms of like, are you in balance or are you out of balance? Because if you're out of balance in your personality type, then you could suddenly be very like you should be able to cope with it, but you won't be able to cope with it. So if you're an earth type of person, an earth type of person tends to get it when they get out of balance, they tend to be that worrying person. And that is, I'm just going to get on this. They tend to worry, sometimes unnecessarily, right? And worry and sort of like worry themselves into a frenzy. And so any little changes could be very detrimental to those people, like as in they won't know how to cope with those people. So if you're into the personality types in Chinese medicine and you know a water type and you're going through a difficulty, well, then find a water type and give them a call and say, hey, this is what's happening to me. They could probably help you with this situation, right? They probably can help you more than you think. Wood types tend to be adventurous and go through, like they in a healthy sense, they should have a flow, right? So they have this spreading, moving energy of wood. And they can tend to go through the paths less traveled by others more easily. Like, they'll see a field of, you see those cornfields where they're just kind of, it's growing right up, and you see people sort of making a way. They can do that. They can make a way. So that's something that might benefit you also, is getting in touch with a wood type. If you're a fire type of person, then you probably would appreciate the benefit of people around you, right? You need that social connection. So for your social connections to be cut off in a time of difficulty, then that's going to be really hard for you. So you want to make sure that you've got those social connections. And you could also be a benefit to other types who are less social that actually need that, right? So you don't want to be knocking on everybody's door all the time and being in people's pockets, right? That's an Australian saying. I'm not sure if that's a saying in America, like, oh, he's just in my pocket all the time. I don't know if people ever got so small enough to get in people's pockets, but that would be like a person who comes over your house or calls you all the time and kind of is annoying like that. So because you want to be able to manage these things in life, sometimes you go through a difficulty and you do need to lean on people in your world, but you don't also want to get to the point where you, let's say, you're draining those relationships, and then you've got no reservoir left to draw on because all your friends don't want you around anymore or something like that. So that's something to consider if you're a fire type. I'm just thinking of the other types in case I've missed some out. A metal type of person. Yeah, so metal types of people can sometimes also tend to be, they tend to need the relationship, but they won't ask for it. Like, or they can get off, they can get on with life being fairly isolated, but they might not like benefit from that in entirety. So they might need some help with that. All right. So these are some of the, just a few little things about the different personality types that might help, yeah. So how it might affect us individually. All right. So how does change affect our body, right? When change happens, if we don't have a free flow, so let's say I've just talked about all the different types. Well, everyone has the capacity for wood to move. You need wood moving, right? Wood is in a physical sense, it's the peristalsis of your body. It's the cyclical movements. It's your menstrual cycle. It's all that sort of stuff. If you're a female, if you're a male, it does affect your hormonal cycles, right? And so your circadian rhythm, these kinds of things, right? So how can we, like I just said before, like your body likes regularity. So if you don't have a regular lifestyle, you're not helping those cycles to work properly. You're actually, like, your body wants it to work regularly, but you're going against that with what you're doing. And then if you don't have wood moving properly, and like that wood element aspect working properly in your body, then the cycles won't be working properly. And that could be a big difficulty for someone who, like, let's say you want to have good sleep, and you're like, yes, Marie, I want to have proper sleep, but I can't seem to find it or get it or, maintain it or whatever. Like, it's so difficult. So that might be where you need to see a practitioner to be able to help you get that wood element in balance, or the wood and fire relationship, it might be, or could be other elements. I'm not saying it's always those things, to get your sleep right, because no amount of you wanting to sleep or trying to sleep is actually helping you to sleep. So sometimes it's just having a recognition of, well, am I helping this thing or hindering this thing that should be happening, this regularity thing, like your sleep or your diet, or have I got some physical imbalance happening so much now that I can't actually solve that by myself, right? So if you're lying there in bed and you just cannot fall asleep, you're sort of staring up at the ceiling and you're like thinking, I wish I could fall asleep, then, no amount of trying to sleep might be helping you. You might need to go and get some herbs or acupuncture or other tool study like that. Oh, looks like we've lost our connection. Have we? No, we're back. That's good. Yeah, I'm not sure why the connection's not great. I've got my same internet that I always have. So I apologize if you can't see me or hear me properly or something's happened there. So please ask your questions if you'd like to ask a question. Hello, everyone on the stream. We're on Instagram over here, and we've got Facebook and YouTube over here. I've got a few little cameras going on today. So we're talking about how to stay positive in difficult times with Chinese medicine, right? So it doesn't have to be on that theme. It can just be, asking your questions. That's fine. You can ask questions and I will answer them. So we're talking about change, how change affects our body. Now, being resistant to change, and this could be something that's like, you can go through a difficulty because, like, life is changing and you're not able to go with the flow of it, right? And it can be hard and you feel resistant to that. And I think it's worthwhile working out or thinking about, is this something that I'm resistant to because it's something that shouldn't be happening, and that's a good resistance, right? I'm not saying just go with the flow and do whatever happens and float around. And some elemental types may appreciate that way of living and others may not. But if it's something that you just find that I'm constantly getting this resistance all the time, like, it might be that either your wood element isn't working properly, like you don't have that flow, that free flow, and maybe it's like water not nourishing wood. So in Chinese medicine, we think of like water, the stream, the water of the the water of the world. Like when rain comes down, it wets the plants, it wets the earth, and that's why sticks can kind of grow. And water's generally represented as green, not as brown wood, right? Wood's represented as green because it's the flow of the water moistening the wood and making wood bend, right? So it bends and flexes, not sort of snaps like an old stick, right? An old firewood stick. That's dead wood. So if you've got some dead wood there, you might need to get rid of that and make room for that new growth. And how does that new growth happen? By watering. I don't know if you've ever had a dead plant. I should have brought it on this stream actually. I've recently got, I've been given some of those orchid plants, right? And they're great for presents because they look beautiful. They've got the beautiful flowers, but then they just die, right? And the flowers die off, and I'm just like, how much do I water this thing? I think they don't need much water. Anyway, I had one outside and it was dead. It was like the flowers had gone and there was nothing there. There was just a pot of nothing, literally. I thought nothing, just sticks, old sticks and the roots and the rocks. And I must have watered it because I was spraying my water on where the plants are, and this thing was just sitting there outside. And then a few days later, I noticed, 2 green shoots are coming out of that. That was cool. I wasn't expecting that. So, nature tells us that even things we think are dead, even things we think are like, well, there's no, I don't know, there's nothing left in this reservoir. Like, you still literally must be alive if you're watching this stream. But you might feel like there's nothing left, and there could be something there. It just needs that water. It needs that nourishment. So how do you water things? Well, in Chinese medicine, you can get around water. You can immerse yourself in the water, like not all the time, not for long periods of time. It's silly. But being around the ocean, being around rivers, being around nature in where there's water, that can help for some of these things, right? And the meditation, the tranquility, that's a good word to associate with water. Meditation, reflection, but not in a sense where, especially if you've got this resistancy to change, where you're feeling like thinking about the same thing over and over. If that's happening, that's not good. So maybe something guided, a guided meditation or a guided hypnosis or something like that, where you're listening to it and it's helping you step through something rather than circulating around the same problem. So another thing where change can affect us and control can be a part of that is our earth element. So resistancy to change can kind of be part of that earth where people are caught up in the worry, caught up in, I don't know, like a pensiveness is what we call it, like an overthinking, right? So too much thinking going around and around and no kind of outlet for that to go. So that could be part of it. So feel free to ask your questions. If you're on Instagram, welcome to the new people that have just joined us. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can ask a question. That's totally fine. So we're talking about how we can be healthier in the new year for, hello, Icky Possum, how you can be healthier with these in difficult times, right? So one is to keep the regularity of things going, right, as much as you possibly can, right? So keep that regularity, regular diet, regular lifestyle. Look at your wood element. Are things moving? Are things flowing? Now, if you find that that's stuck and you think, yeah, Marie, you're talking about that before and I feel a bit stuck in that, well, creativity can help with that. Doing something new. If you're going to be going into springtime, well, springtime's a great time to be doing that. If you're in the US, it's probably you're on the other side of the winter, right? So it's kind of going to get warmer, and then you can start to think about these things now and then be ready to do them in spring, right? That's a great time to go, bang, I'm going to go burst into these new these new things. So going with the seasons can help, right? And sometimes in difficult times, it's about recognizing, well, what season am I in? This isn't going to last forever. This is just a season. This is just a period of time. And how can I best get through this without causing more detriment to my body physically or mentally, or recognizing, okay, what do I actually have to do to move through this in a positive way? So it can be different. There can be different times, right? Sometimes you just have to go, right, this is a really difficult situation. I just have to get through this and not put more pressure on myself to, I don't know, change the world and do all these other things. But then there's some seasons where you think, no, Marie, this is me talking to myself. I have to stop being lazy. You need to kind of move forward. You need to change what you're doing. And you have to recognize that. So sometimes it could be, you might need to talk to somebody else or get some professional advice from whichever source you use. You know, some people have a psychologist that they talk to. Some people have good friends that they talk to. And if you're really into the 5 elements, if you're getting into it and you're like thinking, oh, that makes sense to me, like watch the series that I did on the different elemental types. And then you think, okay, this is a job for a wood person. I need to find a wood person that help me with this. This is a job for a water person. This is a job for a metal person. Then you need to kind of do that and think about maybe a 5 element practitioner kind of works in those ways. And I recently interviewed someone on alchemy on this podcast, and that was super interesting. I've been getting into listening to their podcast, which is completely more, I don't want to say metaphysical, but like more the spiritual, emotional, mental functions of those elements and thinking about how those are working in our lives. And that's called Inspired Action Podcast. And the interview I did with Lita Herman was amazing because it kind of opened my eyes into that world of Chinese medicine that isn't really taught in TCM school. So please feel free to ask a question if you'd like to ask a question. I'm going to have a sip of coffee now because it's like the morning for me. It's it's nearly lunchtime. Excuse me. It's 11:55 a.m. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great start to the new year. And there's lots of things that Chinese medicine can do to help you to be healthier and to stay positive in the difficult times. So that's why I've titled this stream about that, to learn about yourself and to keep things healthy. So going back to those very first principles, someone had asked me this question, well, what are the things I can do to what are the healthy diet things? So eat mostly cooked foods most of the time is one of them. Regularity, so your stomach likes full and empty, not kind of grazing all day long. So it doesn't have to necessarily be 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 5 meals a day, whatever it is. It could be any of those things as long as it's regular. Now, if you're heading up to 5 meals a day, you're kind of tending towards this grazing all day long business where it means you're not giving your stomach a rest. So, you know, there's lots of fads of diets come and go, right? I apologize to people who are watching the stream and it's popping in and out. I've noticed that it's doing that on Instagram. I'm so sorry. It keeps cutting in and out. I'm sorry about that. I think I'm breaking the internet here in Perth, Western Australia. So using up all of the connection that we have in Australia for this stream. I don't know what's going on. But your body likes that regularity and it needs a break. That's the key, right? So fad diets come and go. I remember, I think it was like 2006 or 7. I had lots of patients coming to me around that time that were doing personal training and they were saying, oh, my personal trainer's put me on this 5 meals a day diet. And 5 meals a day isn't really like a meal. Like they're not sitting down with a big plate of food. They're just smaller meals, smaller foods, you know, spaced throughout the day. So basically every 2 hours or every 3 hours, they're eating food. And then, you know, you see this change, this intermittent fasting. And I have some patients that come and say to me, oh, I'm doing intermittent fasting. What do you think about that? And some people, their intermittent fasting is actually just waiting 8 hours between a meal, right, at nighttime, which is what you should be doing. Or extending that to sort of 12 hours, so between your last meal. Now, it's only because we've got fridges, and we've got storages, and we've got Uber Eats and things like that where we can call food in at any time. We've got drive-through foods and, you know, people work later, all that sort of stuff, that we're eating so late at night. That's not really a healthy thing to do. That's an unhealthy thing to do. And I'm talking to myself as well because I do that too. Awesome. Thanks, Icky Possum. I can't stay long tonight, but I'll try to come back and recap soon. Oh, good. Yeah, Inspired Action is a great podcast. My first acupuncture triage is tomorrow. Okay. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like treatment? Treatment, probably. Probably just a typo. Yes, awesome. Well, good luck. I hope you have a good experience with your first acupuncture treatment. So people are always welcome to come and watch this after the fact. That's fine. It's always published on YouTube afterwards. Regularity, right? Your body needs a rest. So whatever system you choose, you just need to make sure you give it a rest at some point. You can't just eat all day long. So that's why intermittent fasting can be very useful. But Chinese medicine just doesn't call it that. They just call that sort of mostly normal way of eating. Okay, Esrin asks, hi, what would be causing high prolactin levels at the age of 35 female? Right. So we just talk about Chinese medicine reasons for things here. So I can sort of give you some Chinese medicine ideas about that. So it depends on what the symptoms would be. You don't need to go into super duper details about your own personal situation on the streams. Certainly, I don't ask people to kind of do that. So just so people know, one is just to give you I don't give individual advice to people because you're not my patient and for legal reasons and things like that. So we'll talk about things kind of theoretically, generically, but we can certainly talk about that question. So one of the things that obviously prolactin does is, causes breasts to have milk, right? It's a yin. That's a yin aspect of your body. So sometimes, like, I can kind of give some. I can talk a little bit about this, but it might not be as specific to your situation or an individual situation based on their symptoms and what's going on for them, right? So we kind of have to think about what the symptoms are, and then what do those symptoms mean in Chinese medicine. And that can explain, well, why is that happening? Now, sometimes there could be lots of reasons in Western medicine why that's happening. So you could have, there can be cancers and things like that can cause it, like tumors and things, where your body's producing the hormone, like an inappropriate amount of hormones that it shouldn't be needing. It could be from medication, like a side effect of medication. It can be. Sometimes herbs can cause this to happen as well. So like herbs that can induce that process can happen. It's not really common. Like there's not fennel seeds is one of the herbs that can cause it. Not really many. It's not like, oh, this one Chinese herbal formula causes it, but that can happen. And I would think that you would have to have quite a lot of what these herbs. So it's not like chucking a few fennel seeds on your, your culinary dishes is going to cause you to get start making milk, breast milk. So that's one of the things. Stimulating your nipples can cause it to happen as well, right? So. I always remember from one of those Meet the Focker movies or something where he was like, you can milk anything with nipples, right? So if you stimulate nipples, they can produce milk. That can happen. Now I've just focused on that symptom of the high prolactin thing because that tends to be what happens. So it could be an imbalance in wood, of the wood element. It's highly likely to be that because the wood element tends to regulate the cycles of our body, and hormonal cycles is a big part of its regulation. So it's not just necessarily going, well, you don't have enough wood or you've got too much wood in that way. So these could be patterns of disharmony like liver qi stagnation, liver yang rising, liver blood deficiency in TCM, right? But in a 5-element perspective, it could be like water not nourishing wood, maybe if there was liver qi stagnation or an excess of wood, and then that excess of wood is kind of like invading earth. Wood insulting metal can be another kind of pattern of disharmony. So it's complicated. It's not just like a one size fits all to answer that question. So you probably would want to look at, go to your doctor, go to your GP and find out if there's any other reasons to rule out those kinds of things. So it might be something to do with like your pill, like your hormonal pill, not working properly, not causing abnormal hormonal levels, that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. All right, I've got another question here. Hi, Marie. How do you cope with the frustrations of the world right now? That's one of the reasons why I thought I'd do this stream, because I was thinking that exactly. It is hard, right, in regards to COVID rules, mandates, regulations, that kind of stuff. And I think it's a constant thing, and that's why I was thinking, well, there must be other people that are suffering now as well. And it depends on your personality type, I think, too. Like, I'm a wood type of person, so I like to do things. I don't like to not be able to do things, and I like control. I like to be in control. Like that's how I thrive, right? Like I've always run my own businesses. I make the rules. Everybody follows me. Like, I don't like rules being told to me. I don't like that, and I know that about myself, and that's fine. It's good to know. It's good to know yourself. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not a reckless law breaker because I don't like rules, but it grates against me. And I also feel that at this time, I mean, I want to keep on topic here, but you've asked the question. I feel like at this time, our freedom worldwide is more important than some other things. I feel that very strongly. And I feel like if you look in history, there's not many times where if governments are given powers, they generally don't at the end of that period go, oh, okay, well, that period's time's over. Let's just give the power back to the people. They tend to not do that. And I'm a big fan of like self-regulation, like as in societies can generally self-regulate if they're in smaller groups as well. So, part of the problem with this problem is that it's so multifaceted. It's not just like if we just do this one thing, all things will go go back to normal. It's kind of, I think the frustration is that it's highlighted a whole bunch of other problems. It's kind of like those problems were already there. So imagine those problems just being like little houses everywhere, but the lights weren't turned on. And now that this COVID thing has happened and some other rules have been in place, I'm not sure what country or place you're in, you don't have to say, that's fine. But certainly in Australia, we've had quite a lot of rules, more rules than I would have ever thought that Australians would put up with. And it's like that button has highlighted all these other things that probably were already there, but they just weren't noticeable to people. Like, they weren't noticeable. So thanks for asking that question. It's so difficult to talk about this stuff sometimes because there's just a lot of which is part of the problem. I think there's a lot of restriction on what you can and can't say on so many levels. But I think your question is worded in such a way that I can answer that, right? So it's, I mean, to answer your question, yes, it frustrates me. And some days I feel like I'm coping with it, and sometimes I feel like I'm not. But I do call people and talk to people. So I think it's good to have friends and family, if you've got family or friends that are on the same page that you can talk with, no matter what level. Like, you might be frustrated for different reasons in this, and I don't want to polarize people on this channel. Like, it's not about, like, hopefully we can come together on a love of Chinese medicine. That's what I hope, right? Or a love of natural medicine. And look, something that this has made me think of is most countries' healthcare systems, if they were ready to cope with this sort of stuff, then they wouldn't have put all these rules in place. Like, like they said at the start of this, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Why are they flattening the curve? They were telling people worldwide, not just in Australia, like, we need to get the health system ready for this right now. Okay, fair enough. Like, health systems aren't used to these things happening all the time. And, you know, based on the numbers that would possibly happen of all these things that could happen, okay, we needed to do all these things. Fair enough. But certainly where I live in Perth, we haven't hardly had any COVID here. And like, we just haven't had what they call community spread. It's only just the last month that we've had, you know, community spread of cases. And our hospital system's been overwhelmed before this, right, from other things. And even before COVID even happens, like 2018, 2019, our hospital system isn't in the best shape. So they're very busy when things happen. So it's highlighted other problems that were already existing. And for some people in the world, like, sometimes healthcare is just so expensive and all these kinds of things. So one of the things I love about Chinese medicine is it's designed to teach people how to be healthy and how to stay healthy. It's not a system that has to wait for you to get sick before you do something about before you do anything. And Western medicine is all about that, right? People don't go to doctors generally. I mean, I think in the old days, they used to encourage people to go to your doctor for a checkup. And they do say, you know, go and have a breast check, go and have a prostate check, go and have these checks to check for cancer. But they're checking for something that's a disease that's already there. They're not looking for for ways to go, oh, well, you don't have healthy diet, so you should be, you know, they don't focus enough on those things, I think, as a society, because it highlights the money. There's not money in that, right? There's not money in giving people a healthy diet plan. Here's a piece of paper and some diet and some foods you should go and buy. But there's money in giving people, like, here's a medicine that you can take, right? A Western pharmaceutical drug. It's just the way that things are. So thanks for asking that question. So yeah, I think I'm very big into autonomy and freedom as well, in terms of just in general, like, that's part of who I am. I'm an autonomous girl. I like autonomy. And I think that's a very wood element thing. It's a metal, wood, water thing, especially wood and water, like autonomy, which autonomy means, like, freedom to do your own thing. Like, just leave me alone and let me get the job done. Don't be over my shoulder telling me what to do or how to do it. I'll figure it out. And some people are not that great with that, and they need guidance, they need step by step, and that's fine. And the autonomous people can generally provide that to those other people, but it shouldn't come to a point where they're, like, ruling it over you and saying, well, you must do this. So one is that, and the other thing that is a frustration for me in all of this is seeing people's medical privacy be eroded. I think that's something that we should be protecting as a society, all societies, like the UK, the US, I don't know what it's so much like in the UK, and I know in the US you have very different rules and regulations, and it's different in different states, but I think Canada and Australia are very similar in terms of they're basically trying to erode in people's minds first, like erode that you should have this medical privacy or that this is related to privacy. And they've done it very cleverly before any of these mandates, where people were taking photos of themselves saying, oh, I've had this blah, blah, blah treatment, right? Oh, I got this, I got that, right? I don't go on your Facebook and say, oh, I got a pap smear. The thing just cut out for a second there. So I think that is part of it. So people have seemed to have jumped on board with that very quickly without realizing, hey, not just for medical privacy, but you should be careful what you put online and what you tell about yourself, because all this data is kind of being collected up about you. All these photos that you put on, all these things that you do. And it's different. Like, if you have a YouTube channel and you make content for that channel, let's say, it's very purposeful what you're putting out there. You're very conscious of what you're doing. Whereas if you're just posting photos on Facebook, oh, I feel like this today, I feel that today, oh, look, I was over here, I was at this place, so that's probably a bit off topic. But you did ask me, you did ask me what I thought. Yeah. So someone else says, I agree about medical privacy. I think charging the curious... I'm thinking of charging the curious people $200. It's a good idea. You might as well get some money out of it to know that stuff, right? Exactly. I think people should be very careful about what they about this issue, because it's a slippery slope, right? Just as in it erodes. It's not a big deal right now, maybe. I mean, for me, it's a big deal, but for most people, they don't see it as a big deal. But then it kind of erodes down the pathway. And there's a reason why things should be between you and your doctor. Medicine should be about a conversation and based on an individual thing, right? And so there you can see this kind of global trends towards getting rid of that relationship, right? That medical relationship where, okay, 10 years ago, you just didn't have all the information. I'll get to your question in a second, Chantia. I will answer that. Medicine should be about a relationship between you and your doctor, whatever doctor you have, right? So let's say I have patients, and that way there's a conversation about that, right? I can tailor the advice to their situation, right? Like sometimes there's things where I'll be like, this is what Chinese medicine says, hard and fast rules about this. But then the patient comes to me and says, look, I'm a vegan and these are the reasons why I'm a vegan. Sometimes I might just tell them outright, look, these are the hard and fast rules about what's healthy and this is what you're doing. And this is how we can integrate those two together in some way to kind of get the best outcome for you. It's a different advice that I'd give to someone else who said to me, this is my diet and this is the reasons why I have this diet. Like what I'm getting at is it should be highly individual to the person. And medicine's getting more and more away from that individualization. And one of the ways they're kind of eroding that is through saying, well, the government's now dictating what medicine you should have. That's very strange. Like we should all be saying that's very strange, highly strange, right? And so I think that one of the ways to fight back against this stuff, if you feel that it's a problem, is to point out how strange it is and how ridiculous it is, and to maintain that stance, because if the more that stance gets eroded, the more the more it's going to get eroded, right? So sometimes people ask me things like that and I just say, well, that's highly personal, right? So maintaining that information is personal is like, hey, there's certain things that you wouldn't ask. And now, unless you're an autistic person or you just don't know, you're a little kid, right? Little kids are good examples because they ask these personal things that they don't know is personal. They don't know they shouldn't be asking that, right? Because everything's an open slather, right? And I remember being a kid and asking someone something and then feeling bad for asking it, not knowing that I'd done that thing, let's say. And then that's how you learn, oh, in our society, this is a taboo subject, or in our society, this is something that we don't just approach like that or whatever, right? And so I think we have to maintain that in our society. Well, this is personal, this is private. There's a reason for that. Anyway, rant over about those things. Yes, so someone wants to ask a question. What do you think, what could I do for low iron? When I talk or walk, I feel such shortness of breath. Yep. Okay, so I'll answer this again in a roundabout way. What could somebody do for low iron? So in the 5 elements, you have metal. Let's just see if I can get a little piece of paper out here. I'm just going to get a little paper that we can have. Give me one sec. Oh, I didn't bring my pencil in here, my iPad pencil. Anyway, that's okay. So you have water, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. So metal is the element that relates to your breathing directly, right? So your lungs, being able to take a full breath and like let that breath sink in. So shortness of breath is essentially not being able to grasp. In TCM, they call it grasping the chi, right? So when you're breathing, this idea that the chi's grasped, it's gathered there, as in it's like you feel a sensation that you can, like if you take a deep breath now, it's sort of, there's some pulling effect that's kind of happening. You might not even be physically aware of it, but it's kind of this idea that, you know, if you're very shallow breathing, it's this inability to grasp that chi. So if you know that you have low iron, you probably have anemia, right? Then that's something you need to sort out. So what's happening is if you've got low iron, your body can't get the oxygen into the cells, and then so it's not so much your breathing, right? But helping your breathing, like get lightheaded, yeah. So there's two ways to go about this. One is I'm saying you could help yourself by breathing better, but that's not the primary way, because you still don't have the ability to absorb the oxygen in the cells, even though you're breathing well. So if you haven't tried the Wim Hof method of breathing, I would definitely recommend that. So you can go online and just look up Wim Hof. He's got several YouTube videos. So I would just recommend that you start very slowly and don't do the breath holds for very long. And just either do it maybe see your doctor first. So just a disclaimer, like don't do this unless your doctor, like, you know, I'm not your doctor, but make sure you get medical advice, or do it when there's someone around. But what those breath holds do is they allow this oxygenation to kind of happen. So good. And have enough hemoglobin, sounds like. Then you want to improve the oxygenation that you can do. And that's what that Wim Hof breathing method will do. There's lots of research on that. And that would be something that I would suggest you start with in terms of the breathing, right? And that may help if you practice that method. So you do it first thing in the morning or the afternoon, or you can do it several times a day if you need to. Blood deficiency is the TCM kind of pattern, or the Chinese medicine pattern, that's associated with that low iron generally, in a general sense. Not always, but most of the time. So if for low iron, for blood deficiency, people generally have very dry skin or very cold hands. You might have freezing cold hands, very cold feet. You don't go to the doctors. I just read that there. Yeah, that's probably why you're still alive. But it's just be aware. Like, I have to say these things because I don't want people to do some breathing exercise and say, "Oh, Marie said to do that," and then something happened. And yep. I'm just sort of saying, don't get your advice off YouTube, but yet giving you advice on YouTube. So, yeah. Anyway, what were we saying? So blood deficiency patterns tend to have pale skin, lightheaded, easy get lightheaded. So when you get up quickly, you feel lightheaded or dizzy. That can happen. You don't have to have all of these symptoms. Generally with your tongue, it'll be a very kind of pale tongue. And that's one of the things where, yeah, you probably could see it on your tongue if you have had it for a long time. Just the color of your tongue might be pale. How did you get this problem is something. So if you don't go to the doctors, I'm not sure how you know you've got low iron. You must have had a test. Now, you don't have to keep putting answers in the comments if you don't want to give out your personal information, but you must know that somehow, right? Or you've just guessed it. Yeah. So I take herbs and I stop eating meat, but I want to detox. So meat is one of the most best things to eat for this, but you have to have high quality meat, and bone broth would be the thing I would suggest you do. So if you're a vegetarian and you're like only vegetarian for health reasons, let's say, and you're like open to eating meat, maybe have some bone broth, make a really high quality one. There's some good videos on YouTube how to do that. Lots of people doing that. I made a video doing it. I'm not the greatest at making it, but I do make it and I do have it myself. So the more gelatinous that bone broth is, the better it is for you. For that stuff. What bone broth's good for as well is it's full of collagen. It helps your skin. It helps you kind of it helps repair your gut, right? So you said have had an iron infusion, and it was making you feel worse. Yeah, sure. So you might not be able to absorb the iron, right? So that's part of it. So repairing your gut is important. That kind of stuff. In Chinese medicine, sometimes I see patients that are deficient, but before they get treatment, they kind of need to do a thing, what we call harmonizing. So it means like making sure things are cleared, smoothly flowing before you start building things up with tonification. So if you've tried tonification with herbs, let's say, depending on what the kind of herbs they are, and that's not working, well, it might be because there's a blockage there, and you simply maybe your guts are blocked, and that might be not why it's not working properly. So sometimes that can help, and then you go back to the tonification and it works even better, or it works properly. So yes, hopefully that's enough information to kind of help you. So I've got several videos on blood deficiency. There's foods that you can eat for blood deficiency are mostly apart from the animal product thing. So royal jelly is another one that could sometimes be used. Just follow the instructions when you use that, because it's has been linked to people getting asthma, and that's from people having way too much of it. So just small amounts of that. Royal jelly is like the honey that the bees make for the queen bee. That's what it is in a nutshell. So yes, I do consultations. I can send you, I can put the link of that here. So there's the link to the consults. I can post herbs out in different countries. And that online link should give you, and you'll be able to book it straight away, and it'll send you a Zoom link for the consultation. Yes. So what was I going to say? So you want to look. I've got a video about blood deficiency, several on there. So you've got the meat kind of products, the royal jelly. Then you've got the foods that are darker coloured foods like mulberry, blackberry, even raspberry, things that are red or black coloured. Obviously, all leafy green vegetables and stuff are good for iron. That's useful, right? Don't stop having those foods. Eating mostly cooked foods, or having maybe a bit of your salad or your leafy greens and stuff like that with some of the bone broth could be useful. Using the bone broth in your cooking, if you're not a fan of just having that, but you don't mind having it, but you don't like the meaty taste of it, you could just put it into your other cooking. And there's heaps of other foods you can use to tonify blood on those other videos. So things that are black and bluey colored, like eggplant, what's that underground one that's red colored? Forget its name. Not a turnip. Anyway, it'll come back to me. Beetroot, that's it. So those things are good for blood tonification. Yep. So the other thing I'm going to mention now is that I'm running a course, and I've also got a giveaway happening, and the giveaway is going to end tomorrow. So you can still be in the draw to get the giveaway. This is to celebrate 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is awesome. So I'm going to put the link here. Metro Health, what's it called? Free book chapter. Right. So I'm going to put the link there. If you're on Instagram, you'll have to go to Facebook or YouTube to get the link, because I won't be able to put it on there. So if you go to this link, you can sign up and get a free book chapter of a new book that I'm writing about natural health and how Chinese medicine's the greatest medicine ever. Not exactly, but I'm writing a course and writing a book at the same time about how to utilize these things, like the knowledge of the 5 elements, pretty much the stuff I talk about on the channel in a more structured way, kind of teaching people, hey, this is how to understand the world around you, and this is how to understand how to be healthy. So this link here, the free book chapter 1, you can get a free chapter of the book, right, that I've written, that I'm starting. And you'll also go in the draw to win one of 3 places in the course that I'm starting. So the course starts this Sunday. in terms of, there's a long course that's starting this Sunday, and then a shorter course starts the Sunday after that, and that's the one that you can win. It's that's worth $347 Australian. So it's over $1,000 worth of prizes that I'm giving away. I'm giving away 3 placements in that course. So all you have to do is sign up to my email, find out about the course. I'm not going to bombard you with tons and tons of emails. As long as you're still subscribed to my emails when I do the draw, which is going to be tomorrow, and I'll do a video about that and pull the names out of the hat and we'll see who's the winner. If you'd like to look at the courses, it's a great way for you to support yourself in learning Chinese medicine, like understanding how to learn it. You'll get some info on that link. You can kind of have a look at the course. It's called Self-Care with the 5 Elements. So I'm talking about how, like today I've talked about, you know, how does the wood element interact in, you know, and the earth element in change, and, you know, dealing with emotional stuff and things like that. We're going to look at every single element and what their relationship is in seasons, what their relationship is in foods, emotions, that kind of stuff. Looking at the yin and yang of the world, how to think about things in terms of yin and yang. And this course is actually being run at 2 time slots. So it'll be on a Sunday afternoon for you in the US and a Sunday afternoon for you in the UK. And so you can choose from either of the time slots that might suit you. If you're not sure, if you'd like to do the course, you'd like to know more about it, and you're not sure about it, which one should I do? Marie, you've got several there, different price points, different times. What's the best one for me? You can book a free call with me through that website as well. And you can find out more about the course. So you can go, you basically just click on something there. I'll probably send you an email. I don't think the link to get the call is there, but you can click on kind of something there and find out more. And you can request a free call with me, and we'll talk about what are your needs, what are your learning needs, and I'll tell you about what different courses I've got, what could suit you. Yeah, so this is a structured way of kind of learning self-help. So if you want to be your own doctor and you want to help your own self, what I'm going to teach you is enough for you to be able to do that stuff and to know when the limits of that are, to know, okay, I need to see a practitioner now, or I need to like have other interventions. But let's say there's nothing wrong with you. There's no reason why you can't keep yourself healthy with Chinese medicine for a long periods of time if you intervene in things that happen early on with foods, with diet, with lifestyle, right? Most people that come to me are already sick, and so we can't intervene with foods and diet and lifestyle. But I know this stuff has worked for me because I've been using this for years. Like I've been using this since I first studied it when I was 17, 18 years old. And I've been using it all this time. Like I'm going to be 40. Well, I am 40. I'm going to be 40 something this year. I'd like to say I'm going to be 40, but I'm going to be 40 something this year. I'm not going to tell you exactly how old I am. But that it's worked for me, right? Now, you know, there's always times where you could be healthier. There's always times where there's things that happen to people constitutionally. Like some people get more thin, some people get more fat, some people get more wet, some people get more dry. Understanding that kind of helps you intervene on things, right? So yeah, it's a good way to keep yourself healthy and good. So I hope that this stream has been helpful and useful to people. If people have more questions, you certainly can ask them. That's totally fine. You can ask your questions. You've got one day basically to jump in on that course thing. Sorry, not the course, the free giveaway, so that you can find out about that. And you'll go in the draw. So you need to jump on that right now, because I'm going to draw that probably tonight, Perth time. Like I said I would finish on Thursday. I'll do it US time because today's Thursday for Australia time. So you'll get to know. You'll know because I'll send you an email with the winner, if you're the winner, and I'll make a video about it as well. So I want to say thank you for 5,000 subscribers. It's been great to grow the channel. So if you're not a subscriber and you're watching this, well, you better subscribe, please. I love subscribers. And yeah, let me know if there's a question that you'd like to ask, something that you have been wanting to know about in Chinese medicine. Maybe there's something you want to know, there's something you want to learn about in a course that I could make a course about, or there's something that you'd like a longer video explaining about, that kind of thing. So I can do all of those things. I can do it. So yeah, I'll just see if there's any other people want to ask a question. Sometimes I don't get to everyone's questions. So if you've asked it before on the channel and haven't answered it, you can feel free to ask it again. Sometimes they get lost in the comments somehow. Like some days I get like heaps of comments, and then they just kind of can disappear in the comments. Awesome. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you, Sue Joanne. Good. Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of jump on and give people a summary of, or not a summary, but I'll give you a summary now of what you can do to kind of help with these difficult times. So if you are facing difficulty and you think, yeah, look, the world's changing around me, and what can I do? You know, recognize what element you are, what type you are, what those downfalls might be of that type. Try to get around other types that might help you in that way. Like, say, for instance, if you're a metal type, you know, you might easily be isolated. You might isolate yourself so easily. And if you're a fire type, you might be really suffering because you're not seeing people as much as you would like to, or you're not so much seeing people, because that's part of it, but maybe you need these pleasurable social interactions, right? If you're a fire type, you tend to like, you know, so the idea of like, oh, well, if certain things come into society and then I can't go to the pub and interact with my friends, and you're a fire type, then, you know, you might be just going, well, my whole life's going to end, so I better go and get that thing, even though I don't want it, because it's so important to you. So, you know, I can understand why people are doing certain things because of those reasons. That's actually not a health reason, as in for the actual original reason to get the thing, but it's a health reason to that person because they're just like, I can't live without this, because it is actually part of what they need, as in their person. Oh, I was going to mention Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Definitely, I wanted to talk about that. Someone says you're Earth. Yeah. So if people are interested in those, where is that book? Just whiz around here and look at my books. I don't know, maybe I've put it somewhere else. Just looking on the other side of the room. Yeah, I think I can see where that book is. Oh, too many books. I've got so many books. There's all these shelves here go down, and there's like 3 shelves of books below me. I used to have the books up here, but then I was like, oh, the herbs look better up there. So, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can quickly do this. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, is a psychological thing, a psychological tool, I guess you could say. I'm just going to try to find a picture of it. And okay, so here I'm just going to see if I can do a little screenshot of this, and let's see if I can put it in the stream. Oh, exciting. So at the bottom, so what it is it's a triangle of needs. Now, these are all human needs that people need. So if you haven't heard of this before, then it's something to think about. It's a very useful tool. Okay, let's see if we can add something. Don't know if I can do this now. Let's see. Let's open this out. Shift 8. Yeah. So it said my audio was also removed. Okay, I'm going to flash that back up on the screen, and then you can sort of, let's see if we can. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not doing it, but anyway, yeah, very annoying. I feel like I've reached the limit of my not my creativity, but my all I want to do is have that thing on there. Why can't it? Why won't it work? Okay, I can't have both of them. I don't know why. It's just not working. So sorry about that. But anyway, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So the bottom of the pyramid is the the physiological needs. So you're just your food, water, shelter, sleep, the things that you need, right? And it's a pyramid thing where if you don't have the thing at the bottom, I know what I can do. I'll just get it on here. If you don't have the one at the bottom, you can't build to the next thing, right? And this is really, really important. So that's why I'm going to sort of get it. There we go. Got my iPad here. Okay. So you can see it here. Easy. So the bottom one is like your physiological needs, right? So this is one of the reasons why it's hard for homeless people to get a job, because getting a job is kind of somewhere kind of in here, right? In your, where are we? So on top of that is your safety needs, then belonging and love, then esteem, then cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, self-actualization, right? So it's like you can't achieve what self-actualization is being all that you can be, like being who you really are, right? Being your true self in the world. And that's what we all kind of want to get to. But when something happens, like a crisis, you're kind of dropped automatically from the top right down to the bottom, right? So, like, let's say like for some people, this is why the pandemic has kind of hit them so hard. One of the things that has happened. So, let's say you're living your best life up here because you've got a house and you feel comfortable in that house. So you've got clothing, you can sleep, you've got, and then the next one's safety. So you feel secure. You've got a general sense of health, right? You can keep going in your life and do what you love doing. You've got, a sense of security. Now that can change depending on what happens to you. So what I'm saying is some people feel they need this, and this to have a sense of security. Other people are like, no, this makes me feel secure. Whatever. You feel secure in what you have, right? Then you can start to get love and belonging in your life. So you can build your relationships, right? It's very hard to build relationships with people if you don't have your security. So if you're always running around thinking, where's my next meal coming from? And you can't spend time with other people, investing into them and building a relationship if you're constantly always thinking about, well, I don't even have clothes to put on my back, I don't have money, I don't have, and that's a real thing for you. It's very hard to kind of get to that next kind of level, right? So I'm just going to try to, there we go, hold this up there for you so you can kind of see it, right? Right next to my face. Oh, just press something powerful. Just hold it like that. So that's your safety. Then you have those belonging, and then you have like your esteem needs, right? So respect, status in life, recognition. So let's say you've gotten, you're starting to study, you're learning a degree. You know, it's very hard to study if you're moving house and you don't know where your things are, and you don't even know if you've got enough, like you lose your job, you kind of drop down to here where you're like, oh, how can I provide for myself? How can I do, you need to get these basic things sorted out first. And then once you've got that, right, so once people have gotten a career, let's say, they feel a sense of freedom, they feel a sense of autonomy, right? That's in that esteem part here. This person's here's added these other things in here, like aesthetic needs, and to get to the transcendence. But basically, up here at the top is your self-actualization, right? So transcending the world around you can't really happen unless you've got those basic needs met, is what I'm getting at. And so what this model teaches us is, like, sometimes stuff can happen in life where you're just busy living, not thinking about these things, because you shouldn't every day have to think, well, how am I going to get, like, once you've got a job, let's say, or you've got a business that's working well, a certain amount of money is going to come in and that's going to pay the bills. And then it's like the extra money could be spent on these other things, and your extra time could be spent on those other things. You're not sort of sitting there every day going, right, how am I going to live today? How am I going to get food? How am I going to keep my family safe? How am I going to get my personal safety? This kind of stuff. Even thinking about having kids, like a lot of people don't want to think about having kids. They might have kids, but they haven't actually planned to have kids, let's say, until they feel that all these things are achieved at the bottom there, right? Like you've got to kind of have that sense of security to be able to then get to the next level of, okay, well, now that my security's done, I can now, really think about who am I supposed to be in the world? What am I supposed to do? Like, how can I be a better person? It's makes sense, right? It's common sense, hopefully. But I want to mention that model because what can happen is sometimes you can just be going about your life as normal. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of people. Someone asked me a question. I don't know if they're still here on the stream or not. We've gone on for a bit, a bit of time. And I don't expect everyone to just spend all their time with me. But they asked me how am I coping with all the stress of these mandates and the stress of the situations in the world right now. It can be very discombobulating for people because of that. It's what it's done is it's gone, you're basically right, okay, I'm living my life, I'm doing my stuff. And that's sometimes what's forced people, which I think is wrong, to go, okay, well, in order to keep this, I have to have something done to my body that you may or may not want to have. And if it's got to that point where you didn't have it, you probably haven't decided to have it, but they've kind of forced you because it is a health decision at that point as well, because you're thinking, well, if I can't provide these things, I can't keep doing this that I love, right? And living the life that I love. And there's a certain amount of fear that there's no other way necessarily to provide all this, because you might not know that. You might not know that there's other ways to provide all that. But also it could be, the profession that you love doing might be in jeopardy or something like that. Just from mandates, let's say, right? But also in terms of fear, like, okay, what if I get sick and then I can't provide for my family? What if I get sick and I can't do my job or something like that? So they're all real stresses. They're all real needs. And the reason why I want to bring up that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is because it's important to recognize, well, where am I in this structure? And one thing that can cause you a great deal of stress is to actually be somewhere here, like at the bottom, trying to get your basic needs met. And then at the same time, you're putting pressure on yourself to keep going at this level of self-actualization and that kind of stuff. And naturally, you probably aren't going to be doing that. A good example that I've used when I've taught this stuff, because I've taught psychology and these kinds of things at colleges before, is to think about the example of moving house. This is very real for me because I have to move house any day now. And that this idea of, like, especially if you don't have somewhere to move to, you're thinking, well, where am I going to go? And there might be stress involved in that, like finding the right place and, you know, that kind of stuff. So when you're in this state of discombobulation of that, it's very hard to keep going at the life of the, you know, self-actualization level when you're like thinking, okay, I need to just focus on my basic needs. And this, depending on the type of person you are as well, like what's going to stress you out more than others might be because if you are, let's say, an earth type or maybe metal types as well, probably fire. I think the two types that wouldn't be as stressed about this would be wood and wood and water types. They're probably less stressed by not having the structure of where am I going to live and what am I going to do and that kind of stuff. Having that known. It can be the same as if you've lost a job. So let's say you're just going about your life. You've got your house. You've got your safety concerns are taken care of. You've got your alarm system that you know and love. You've got a gate. This is why people put mesh gates up. They put security fences up. They put these sort of things up, right? You've got friends. You've got a social network. You've got people you can call when times are tough. There might be people that you know at work that, you know, you're like, I get along well with these people. Same as, think back to when you were in high school. You feel better when you've got a network of people or a group, even one or two friends, better than no friends, right? Your cognitive needs are met. Like you've got stimulation for that. You're not just hanging around with people that aren't stimulating you to think better. You've got access to even things like access to YouTube or things that you can actually, learn from, and a place to stimulate you, books, and, that resource, that need is being met. And aesthetic need, like things like, okay, now I can think about how do I look? Like, can I make myself look better? Put makeup on, go to the gym, like start to think about, well, how does my house look? Like this kind of stuff, right? Let's say all these things are met. And you're like, okay, that's all sorted. And then you're like, well, what am I really doing with my life? Like, am I doing something purposeful, meaningful? Is my business meaningful? Is my career meaningful? That, they're on a pathway to do all that. They're going about their life. Everything's great. And then one day they come to work and boss comes in and says, look, either we're just like not happy with your performance. And you're like, what? I thought I was performing really well. Like, what's happened here? Or they've said, look, we've run out of money, company's closing, or we can't employ you anymore, or something like that. And it's like instantly you go from here down to here because you're thinking, shit, depending on how you have kept your money all this time, right? If you've just been spending it all and you're just living week to week, month to month, you might just be like, oh, okay, suddenly I might not be able to pay because money pays for all this stuff. And so losing your job forces you to come back to this, and that can be highly stressful. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I've got a meeting next week, and suddenly all these things don't seem that important anymore. Oh, I've got this, appointment to get my my boob job done or whatever, like things that are like just suddenly seem like, oh, this is insignificant now to the severity of this. I need to get another job so that I can pay for all this so that it all works. Or, your health is kind of, here, like your safety and your psychological, your physiological kind of needs. If you suddenly have a health problem, a major health problem, you're forced to kind of come down to that level and go, right, I can't, it's almost like you can't now, I'm not saying people can't achieve self-actualization when they've got a health problem. People do it all the time. But you've got to go back down to that level, sort that out, and then be able to build back up to that next level. And that's how it works. So I hope that's been useful and helpful to you. And if it has, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm probably going to end it there. I don't think there's any more comments that questions that people want to ask. So thank you so much for your attention. If you haven't already and you've just jumped on the stream and you're new, then there's a few hours left to get into the prize draw for the 5,000 subscribers. I'm putting the link there again. You go to this link, metrohealth.com.au. That's my business name. And you go to free book chapter, which is the links there. You can get a free chapter of the book that I'm writing at the moment. This is about yin and yang and how the different principles of yin and yang act in a self-care kind of way, or how we can understand that to have better self-care. And then you can check out my new courses. I would love to have you join me. The first one starting on Sunday. I'd love to have you join me. I would love it. If money is a problem and you're like, oh, I'd love to get on your course, I've got an ultimate learning experience that's starting this Sunday, goes for a year. There's 3 lots of 12 weeks of it. It's $1,995 in Australian dollars. So that works out to be about $1,450, something like that, US dollars. It's cheaper in US. If you'd like to do that and you're thinking, well, I don't have that money right now and let's pay it in payments, then that's a possibility as well. So I can't do that for everybody, but I can if you contact me, and I can make up some PayPal invoices for you to pay it periodically if that's what you need. So I don't want people to miss out because they're really interested in learning and they just can't pay it all in one go. But that's what I'm doing this year, to kind of support the channel. And I've been thinking for myself, like in this whole model, when I get to this level of doing this, right? And that's what I am doing, hopefully. What's the best way for me to use myself in the world? Like, what's the best thing I could do for the world? And I think teaching Chinese medicine is something I'm super passionate about. And there's no one really teaching people step by step how to do this self-help stuff in such an in-depth way. Right. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Love the compliments. Thank you. I don't mean that. Like, I'm not laughing at your compliment, but yes, they do compliments make the world go round. I'm sure that they do. Yeah, so I'm passionate about that. And also there's some people that have asked me for this kind of stuff. They've been like, oh, can I learn more about this? And so a way to get started is to do an online consultation where we can talk about your individual stuff, if that's what you want to do, to help you on your journey of a better health. But then also by learning in this ultimate learning experience, I think in my scope of knowledge, which I've been doing Chinese medicine for like 20 years, 21 years this year, this is all that you can learn, not all that can be learned, but this is basically all that you can, like, it's all that I could teach you in a year to use. This is all the self-help stuff that Chinese medicine has to give you. The next level from that would be becoming a practitioner, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I've tried to squeeze in everything I can about you learning enough to be able to help yourself with the things that you can help yourself learning, like the scholarly pursuit that practitioners learn. 4 years isn't even enough to kind of scratch the surface of learning it as a practitioner. And that's something that I'm passionate about, continuously learning it for myself. But there's also a whole range of things that can simply be implemented by every person on this planet if they want to. And that's what I'm going to teach you in this course. And there's also a few different ways to break it down. So there's one mini course just on 5 elements and emotions. One mini course on like the Shanghan Lun system of thinking in Chinese medicine. So it gives you an idea of like, how do we think about how colds and flus start and all that sort of stuff. So if you go to that web page, I might give you the link to just the actual web page. That's courses. Then each individual page. Sorry, this page here that I'm sending you now, this course is 2022, there's a link to all the other courses on there. So the little ones and the big one and that. And there's a little video of me explaining, well, this is what I'm going to be teaching you. This is why you would want to learn it. And there's also the link on that page to book a free call with me to talk about your learning needs. I don't want people enrolling in this that don't want to learn it. Like, I want people to be there because they really want to learn, and I want it to be the right thing for you. I don't want you to be wasting money on stuff that's not going to be useful for you. So I want it to be, give you high utility and value, and not trying to scam people into something that's, not going to be useful. So that's my passion, and I hope that you're having a great year so far. 13th of January today. We're halfway through January. And I want to encourage you to stay positive in difficult times. That was the theme of today. And thank you so much for your attention. Have a great week. And I'll see you again on another stream soon.